Stephanie, you gotta turn your mic on.
I missed one. Hello. Ah, dang it. I was like, I thought I got them all.
How many are there?
Uh, one, two, three. Three.
Yeah. That's too many.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, hey, we're here. We had some technical difficulties, but we're here. We made it.
Just some little ones. Just some little ones.
I don't know. Your face at one point that I was watching with our mics off was looking kind of scary.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I kind of vaguely understand. Well, I kind of vaguely think I know what's happening, but I don't know how to fix it. Like, and we seem to be streaming okay, so.
Just don't breathe too hard or anything.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
I just noticed like how perfectly my skin being iridescent and pink is matching the quilt behind me. And half of me is like, is my face this pink or is the quilt behind me making my face this pink?
I don't know.
First world problems.
Yeah, what
Makes
you
me
look
think like
like. Uh-huh.
if I put up something blue, will I start to look kind of blue? I have a little story today about like getting out of the shower.
Oh.
I was like trying to like blow dry my bangs and stuff, so
Hmm.
I didn't, it looked like I had some, and my hair dryer blew up.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, like sparks, like smoke, like yeah, it's good times.
yeah, I don't like things like blowing up right near my head.
Well, do you remember when we traveled at one point and I asked you, like, are you bringing a hairdryer? And you were like, no. And I said, like, oh, I could bring mine, but like it's like on its way out and like I don't want to travel with it. Like it's that hairdryer. Like, it wasn't like a Dyson, $1 million hairdryer. But yeah, I was just like, oh, well, I guess the universe has decided that I am done with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a nice, good, expensive hair dryer that kind of did the same thing. It was just like, meh, yeet.
Oh, this was not an expensive hair dryer. This was one of the cheapies. I do have another one in a box somewhere. I just haven't opened it yet. Hi, Janet. Janet says greetings from Monterey Bay, where it's a bit breezy and cloudy. Atmospheric. Oh, I've got stuff in front of my chat. Atmospheric river headed our way.
Yay,
Yay,
rain.
rain.
Okay. Hey, Jan.
Hey, Jan. Jinx.
Yeah. I got snow today. So,
Oh,
we were,
today? Oh,
yeah.
wait. Did you get our snow?
Yeah, probably. We
Oh.
were supposed to get some this weekend, and then I don't think we got anything this weekend. But yeah,
We got like
around,
9 inches,
yeah, we're not
which is
supposed to
the
get much.
most snow we've had in any storm all year. So the people that were like freaking out about it, I'm like, it's almost like it's winter.
Yeah.
And we haven't had like anything. I don't even think we've had a total of 9 inches all season with everything combined. So, but we are due for some more coming. And guess what else happened to me today? I was getting ready to leave to come up here, and I brought the dog with me this time, and I'm like, my eye is just glancing out of the window into the backyard, and I saw a big old plump coyote just prancing through the yard. It's funny. Normally we don't see them in our part of town. They're in other parts of town,
Hmm.
which is weird because we have a wildlife sanctuary really close by. But yeah, we get a lot of fox, and at first I thought it was a fox, and then when I looked a little closer, I thought it was like a wolf because it was so
Oh
huge.
my gosh.
And yeah, and then I was just like, oh man, that's a really healthy coyote. And my dog is 10 pounds, so she is perfect coyote snack size. So I'm like, oh, great. And I was so paranoid when I left the house with her, getting her to the car, because I was only like 10 minutes later, that I left the front door wide open with no one home.
Did you go back and close it?
Oh no, I didn't know. I didn't find out till my brother got back to the house like an hour-ish later and was like, "You left the front door wide open." We don't live in a place where like people are gonna come up to our door. Like we don't have sidewalks. We're not in a neighborhood, you know what I mean? Like, but it's still just like
Yeah, that's something else. Yeah, I'd say that the most action I had today was the nap I took on the couch with my cat. Like,
Yeah, I didn't have anything that enjoyable. But I mean, so I'm happy that like we're talking about like fabrics and things today. There
yeah.
were some very interesting things in these chapters. I do have some supplemental goodies.
Ooh, good. Yeah, I did not. Yeah, there was nothing that really, um, I don't know, necessarily invoked some ideas of supplements. So,
Oh,
um,
well, I think you're going to enjoy this more once you see the supplements that I have. I think you
okay.
will enjoy them.
Yeah.
So, but we gotta do the announcement stuff,
Oh,
guys.
yes. Okay.
We gotta do them.
Yep. Yep.
So, the first thing that I'm gonna show you here is our calendar because it's gonna explain why
Oh, yes.
um things need to be the way they are coming up. So, oh, sorry, we're inceptioning. There we go. Sorry about that. So, um, we gotta talk about the calendar here because, well, aside from the fact that Stephanie has her special screening going on Friday, if you're
Mm-hmm.
a member over on her Twitch, a subscriber, you're gonna get a free watch party in the background of things.
Yes.
And you should do that for Galentine's and Palentine's Day in the
Yep.
evening. And what are we watching again? I can't remember the name of it.
It's called Taking Venice, which it's about the Venice Biennale in 1964. So big
That
art
sounds like a
show.
triathlon.
It does, but it is actually a big art show. So
Hmm.
there was drama and intrigue.
And that we're doing at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
7 p.m. Eastern. Yep. And I tested
And then our
everything last
next,
night, and it works.
yay! And then our next Stitch and Glitch is next Saturday, the
Hmm.
22nd
Yep.
at 2 p.m. I'm looking forward to just some low key, talking about whatever interestingness. Actually,
Yeah.
potentially, I have something interesting to maybe discuss that day. Anywho,
Oh, okay. I'm always
yeah,
happy to
there's
talk about every chicken sandwich I've ever met. So,
no, not that kind of thing. It's something else, something more quilt related than that, even though snacks
okay.
are relevant because you need snacks while
Suit
you're done. But
yourself.
anyway.
Suit yourself.
So tonight I'm gonna give you guys 2 weeks worth of reading because on the 18th here we have we're gonna do a special show where we've got an interview with Virginia Quilt Museum's director Alisa Thomas, and she's a super friend of ours.
Yay.
And we're gonna talk to her about the museum, about her, about what the hell an executive director of a museum does.
Yeah, I'm very
Because
curious about it.
yeah, like what do you do on any given day? Because, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those like secretive kind of positions that
Well, we
people
know
don't
about
hear
some
about.
of the things she does, but I don't know if that's like normal stuff, you know? So, I'm really interested to hear more about her
Mhm,
job. So,
mhm.
I'm excited that she's coming to talk to us.
And then before we move on, let me remind people, because we were just doing all kinds of signing up for things last night. The Penn Dry Goods Market is the schedule has been posted,
I feel like it's
and
earlier this year. I feel like, I
yeah,
don't remember signing up this early last year.
yeah. Here's Deb Cooney here, who I think you've probably heard us talk about before, and then our friend Barb. If you're in the audience tonight, hey
Oh,
Barb. We were doing some lodgings and stuff last night. This is an antique show meets a lecture program. The lectures this year are really good, and the schedule is out, and things fill up quickly. The pregame here, which happens before the show actually happens. This is the beginning of May. The show's later into May, but it's actually by our friend Julie Silber.
yeah, yeah.
So that's gonna be fun, and that's over Zoom. So this
Yeah,
is
that one is
totally,
available to anybody. The other ones are
yep.
all may or may not be available later as videos, but
Hmm.
Julie's will be available that day. It's not being recorded though,
Yep.
right? So it's only
Yes, it's
available
not
that
being
day.
recorded. Yep. Yeah, this other stuff is it's very good. It's a great little show. It's just 2 days.
Mm.
And then they have antiques dealers, they've got quilts and needlework tools and primitives and samplers, and there's some really great stuff offered this year.
Yeah.
So I highly suggest you come if you're around and you want to. Steph and I go. It's non-negotiable now. There
I'm
was
not
talk
allowed
about
to say
how,
no unless I'm dead.
yeah, and then there was talk about how, well, like, even if she was dead,
You
we could probably work that out.
wheel my coffin right in
So,
there.
yeah, so anywho, so that's what's going on with that. And so let me give you, okay. So our next actual discussion of things will be on the 25th. So remember that for the 18th, we're taking a break because we're doing an interview. So on the 25th, we will discuss chapters 13 through 17, and that's going to be pages 175 to 229. And it's only gonna it actually ends up being about 47 pages instead of closer to like 60 with the way things turn out. And obviously, like, if there is a lot to discuss, but some of these chapters are kind of short, then that's probably a night that we would anticipate maybe going a little over time because there's just more to talk about.
What are the chapters again? 13 through
13 through 17.
17. Okay.
Yeah, it worked out that those ones just actually happened to be a little shorter than others.
Yeah.
So that was pleasant. So with that, tonight we're kicking it off here with chapter 10, Tokens of Friendship, and Miss Fanny Taylor.
Miss Fanny Taylor.
I'm really
I
sad
have
about
to.
Fanny.
I am sad about Fanny. But one thing that is funny. So like her very first sentence here about not being able to find Fanny Taylor. I have searched through every configuration of her name: Fanny, Frances, Francesca. Did you search Stephanie?
What?
Y'all call me Steph. However, the second part of my name is Fanny. So
I need more information.
I literally met a person named Stephanie that went by Fanny.
Really? And that, but
I don't
is
know
that
why,
maybe,
because Steph seems like has less like weird connotations. I mean, in the UK, Fanny means something else. Oh gosh, Sunday. It was not a wolf. It was a coyote, and it would have curled up on your bed. So just chill out. Oh, by the way.
oh, I haven't worn, I'm in AQSG area rep. The back of my shirt says area rep tonight.
But
I
anyway,
actually forgot that I had one of the two tones.
but yeah, obviously Fanny, Frances, Francesca. I mean, those are names that make sense for Fanny to be like the diminutive. But, I don't know. It's one of those things that like I had a couple friends that used to just poke at me and call me Fanny. So I don't know. I mean, did she really look up all the names?
It's just so weird to me that like she can't like she can't find her really in regards to Singapore.
Yeah.
There's that many of them going to Singapore at that time. That's why
Well,
I'm like,
and
wow.
also, well, I think, I mean, I think that, I mean, obviously they have the ship manifest, the ship, whatever you call those, the ship, it's not manifest, it's a, whatever. The thing that says who all the people on the ship are. It's called a ship something. It's like a list. And there's a date that she arrived. So I guess, I don't know, my question.
A very solid date.
Yeah. And, I mean, sometimes you just can't find people. I mean, I am not by any means a professional genealogist, but I've taken some education in genealogy, and I've, worked closely with some genealogists in terms of my professional life. And it's not easy. It's like, it's great that you can find stuff. You can type in like, Baltimore and, turn of the century, like the dates, 1900 to 1940. And I'm going to find Dr. Dunton, he's going to come up. But there's lots of people that would never would.
Well, and aren't women some of the hardest to find?
Of course, yes, because so many women are known by their husband's name. And that was one reason why when I was researching Dr. Dutton, I had a hard time finding anything about his first wife because she was just referred to as Mrs. William Dutton. And I mean, I did know her name, but the only mentions of her I found like publicly were in newspapers. And she was just referred to as Mrs. Dutton.
Right. It's like as soon as you get married, your identity is just erased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and there's unless you are somebody of means or whatever, you're probably not going to be heard from much before you got married either. I mean, maybe in reference.
Well, you're heard from by your dad.
Well, yes, you'd reference to your father or your brothers, maybe. But yeah. So I'm just really curious. I mean, I know Taylor is actually a very common name. British. It's a British name. It's a very, very common British name. I have Taylors in my family on like all four sides, literally. Mm-hmm. There are Taylors either married in or, somehow within all four of my grandparents. So it's no surprise that she really struggled. But I'm kind of wondering, I mean, like she narrowed down Emma Taylor. And there's the suggestion that Fanny may have been related to Emma. So I'm kind of like, well, what's missing? And like, is there anyone that has a completely different name, but seems like she's Fanny? Like, I don't know. And I mean, I'm not by no means, please don't think that I'm criticizing Kate Strasdin because it's hard. It is really hard to find people sometimes. But I'm just surprised if she is related to Emma Taylor. Why can't they, why can't she find her? So, hey, Arlene.
I also think it's important to note that we are reading a book recently published. Mm-hmm. Most of the other stuff is far. So if there's been any commentary or additional information, so who knows? Maybe after this published, someone was like, "Oh, I found her for you."
Yeah, I would be really interested. Now. European and UK genealogy is difficult, in looking at a lot of that stuff. The US it's a lot easier in the US just because we only have so much history, and people are always proud when they get themselves up to, the original, the Mayflower people, the Jamestown people, they came here in the 1700s people. But you could get pretty far if your family has been in the U.S. for a while, if you're not a recent immigrant. So I think there's this sense of like, well, in my mind, I just kept thinking, why can't she find her? But then I had to remember, it's more difficult when you've got thousands of years of documented history, I would say probably, several countries in Europe, like Germany, which has really only been Germany for a short period of time, but like that Bavarian region and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, like all that stuff is documented, like, mm-hmm. And a lot of stuff in the UK, but, it doesn't surprise me. It surprised me and it upset me, but it doesn't surprise me, I guess is my long-winded way of saying.
Well, I was actually happy that in these first few pages, the description of, Fanny's dress when they met and Anne's dress that she was wearing when they met, along with the date here of...
did you identify them?
Yes, I did.
So, just in case you have the book and you didn't identify them, the pink one here is Fanny's dress, and then this one, the little blue figures, is Anne's dress.
And those are the dresses that they were wearing when the day Fanny arrived and Anne met her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is the cutest thing I've ever heard of. And they get cuter. Like it gets even cuter.
All the stuff that she describes of like, they always, they had dresses made out of matching fabrics. They were buying ribbons at the same time, like all this stuff. And I'm kind of wondering like, did they irritate each other? I mean, could it be that like right around the time Anne left, Fanny was like, oh, my best friend, you're leaving me. I'm never going to speak to you again. You're dead to me. Like, could there have been some kind of thing like that they were so close and then when Anne left, maybe was that friendship fractured in that way? Or sadly, maybe Fanny died and we just don't have any record of
Yeah,
it.
that's what we were kibitzing about before we started the stream.
Yeah.
I'm like, was Fanny eaten by a tiger?
Let's hope not.
Something like that. But in the fact that like they were wearing matching dresses, I was like, oh my God, is this like
Such a
sharing textiles the equivalent of like friendship necklaces and
friendship
bracelets of like
bracelets,
the
yeah.
80s and 90s? Like,
Yeah. Instead of
um,
that little zigzaggy heart where you get the two pieces, you're just like, look at our matching dresses.
yeah, you're like, let's rip and tear this fabric. Here, everyone, go get a bodice. Like, I thought that was, and the fact too that Fanny like shows up in the dress diary 17 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Well,
she
I
was
mean, it sounds to
obviously
me that, I mean, just based on what Kate puzzled out about this, it seems logical that Anne knew her from back home.
prior.
She was not, did not meet her in Singapore. I mean, just the fact that she met the ship, like she welcomed her.
She was like, "Oh my God, someone I like is coming over."
Somebody I know. And then, so clearly she knew who she was. Makes sense to me, but and then they're just together all the time. It seems like everything, they're always shopping together or obtaining things together. And I started to wonder, like, were they friends till the bitter end when Anne left or not? I mean, was it a tearful thing, or did something happen to Fanny? I mean, and I didn't see. I know she kept saying like there is no mention of Fanny after she goes back to England.
But obviously, we get other tailors.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember if there was an actual date, like based on Anne's departure from Singapore. Was there a, did the references to Fanny go all the way up to the time they left, or was there like some time in the end where maybe Fanny was not, I just,
Janet has an interesting perspective. She said perhaps they were in different social tiers, and it didn't matter in Singapore, but it did in England.
maybe.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that I mean, it does this first dress that we have and others.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely have access to the same kinds of fabrics,
Yeah,
like silk.
and right, and the things that are coming from home seem to be sent specifically to both of them. So,
Mhm.
and I thought it was interesting where she thought perhaps that, so I'm imagining Anne walking about with good sitters, sisters ready to snip a sample. How did she get all of these? That is a really good question, Jan, and I think we may have talked about that. Like, is she getting these from like the cabbage of the dresses? Do they know the tailor that has made the stuff so they could get some of the extra, or are they literally like, you know? I do
Well, and these
know
are good sized pieces.
they are, but what I do know is that clothing was not. I mean, now we have like such narrow seams in our clothing, whereas at least the skirts back then may have had like really generous seams. Now big enough for like pieces of fabric this big, probably not. So yeah, I really wish that I could figure that part out. Every
Yeah,
other,
I'm wondering
yeah.
if at some point she mentions, but she does mention at some point in this chapter that Fanny probably was helping her
Mm-hmm.
get get some pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I I was
Yeah.
gonna say too that
Big hems. Yeah.
the
Well.
on page 138, I've got a quote here that scholar Anna Kirk has termed like dressing as a practice specific to the 18th century, and dressing in clothes was a
Yeah.
signifier of kingship and also intended to be a nonverbal indicator of affection.
Mm-hmm. So are you talking
And
about
I
the
think I
story?
think we've
Yeah.
like my friends and I definitely did that in the early, the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yes.
Totally.
Alexandra and Dagmar. I never really dressed like my friends per se, but I would say we had a uniform that at times we would look like, you know. So Janet said, wouldn't the owner of the fabric get the scraps back? Yeah. I mean, yes, they should.
Yeah.
Unless the tailor, or the dressmaker was allowed to keep them. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We just don't know. Anybody who, and I'd always thought of these kind of swatch books as being you either had access to samples, like your husband worked in a mill or was a salesman or something, had access to samples, or you were making dresses or you had a dressmaker. And so you were able to have like access to all of these scraps. And then that's what ends up in there. But it's really confusing though, because she's always referring to dresses and not fabric. So, and I think we talked about this last week in that we were curious to know, like, a waistcoat. I think like deep hems can account for big pieces of fabric on dresses, but like a waistcoat is not going to have that much extra fabric. So,
So, in terms of us that do fiber textile things now, like quilting and stuff like that, when you find out that your friends are into something or they're collecting something, we save crap for them.
mm-hmm.
We go out, we'd be like, oh my God, my friend's making a scrap quilt that's this color and I have this, like, we save crap for them. So my guess would be that it's probably pretty likely that once word got out of her close acquaintances that
Mm-hmm.
she does this thing, that they were probably like, "Oh, I'm gonna save a piece of this for
Yeah.
because if they knew that like she wants anything and everything, although who knows, maybe she was like, I don't want any of me this, but because there's all
None of
kinds of
that
fabric. It's
horrible
not just one
yellow
thing.
silk. Oh.
Yeah, um, that they maybe were just saving stuff for her, but. Because that particular argument is an argument we can carry all the way through. I don't want to digress too much because it's already
Yeah.
7:35. I do want to
Um,
bring attention to the point that on 141 we talk about quilts.
yes, that's what I was going to say next.
Yeah, go
So,
ahead. Did you want to like read that little paragraph or anything?
yeah, I
Or
mean, I
plug in
can
here?
I know that I really like the very last sentence on the page is, in a sense, Anne's diary as a deconstructed friendship quilt. I just love
Mm-hmm.
that, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I also think it's really beautiful what she wrote. Like you say,
Yes,
it
that's
took
a, go ahead
it
read.
took more than one pair of hands to make a quilt, and so the ties of love and friendship were stitched into the polychrome patterns of its many fabrics. Choosing the cloth, deciding on the arrangement of the pieces, cutting the paper templates, and ultimately sewing them together took time, decision making, and conversation. At the very point when Anne was choosing the arrangement of her own cloth pieces, women in America in the 1840s were designing and making album quilts. So yeah, I mean, there's such a through line in all of these activities. Um,
Well, and even like that act of gathering that I mentioned, where if like her friends know above, we've got the collaborative possibilities of hand quilting made the practice that involved both family and friends. Jane Austen wrote to
mhm.
her sister Cassandra in 1811. Have you remembered to collect pieces for the patchwork? We are now at a standstill.
Yeah, like go get your scissors.
Yeah, like, and for all you know, Cassandra was just like, "Hey guys, does anyone just have like some extra, 5-inch squares that they're not using that I
Mhm.
can like take some?" And like, I like friends of mine, like since we like to do a lot of scrap quilting, sometimes you get sick of your scraps, so we'll
Yeah,
do like a
yep.
scrap swap,
Yeah, I've
to
done
get some
scrap
more
trades too.
variety.
Yep. Hmm.
I was really excited though to start reading, like, "Oh my God, look, there's quilting in
I
here."
know. I was like, I had to do a little. This isn't a quilting book. What's she talking about quilting? That was very exciting. Yeah.
And then, I mean, beyond that, we go into, you made the reference earlier about, well, she starts talking about how giving textiles, receiving textiles, and this like act of gift giving, and that, giving and receiving textiles at this period is a big deal because
Hmm.
we're not over flooded with consumerism like we are in today's
Right.
society. So things are a lot more precious, but she talks about this Anne described the origins of a figured yellow silk. She wrote beneath its buttery floral motif, the dress is given to us by Mr. How did you say that? Boustede? Hello?
What? I'm sorry. What
Mr.
page are we
Is
on?
it like Boustede? I think it's Boustede. The
Yeah, I
dress is
think so.
given to us by Mr. Boustede, in which we never wore. Underneath this, by the way of postscript, she added, change the above for these.
Yeah.
The two printed cotton swatches, one bearing
Hmm.
Anne's name and the other Fanny's, were apparently more to their taste.
Hmm. I think its name is boosted. Boosted.
Boosted?
Boosted. Yeah.
Whatever. He's
Um,
boosted, boosted, bustier.
yeah, and well, and I mean, it's interesting. She kind of goes into this thing like, whatever, it's like we kind of. It's no different now. If somebody were to give you something and you're like, "Hey, thanks," ooh. you know, um, and you kind of wonder, like, as she says, like, did they have to kind of hide this from him? Like just on the sly. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
but
Did
again,
you
I go
have
back.
anything else for this chapter?
I don't think so. There is something I forgot to mark, and now I can't remember. I don't think it's in this chapter. I think it's in the next one. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna be wrong.
I was gonna say if you want to move on because I do have some
Oh yes.
supplemental goodies.
So
Hmm.
Margaret Brennan.
Miss B, Miss
Miss
B's
B.
small wares.
I like that
I think,
small wares and haberdashery.
oh my God, I love the word haberdashery. Have you ever seen the show The Paradise?
I don't think so.
It's a period piece that's also a book written about a department store and in one of it one of the shop girls works in haberdashery and she like says that word all the time like and then she explains that it's all manners of buttons and notions and
Mm-hmm.
I
Ribbons
love it.
and such.
Yeah, it's a cute little show. You should watch it. It's only 2 seasons before it doesn't end. They just kill it. Anywho, so in the very beginning here of this chapter on 148, we see again the mention of the English Woman's Domestic Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna share my screen.
And what's
Steph and I.
interesting here in the U.S. This is coinciding. I mean, this time period is coinciding with Godey's Ladies book.
Mm-hmm. So
In fact,
um,
I think I have one right here.
so I was poking around, and you can view some of these
Ooh,
magazines
how exciting!
online for for free.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, yeah, so I just, there's a whole bunch of them here in, around in our time period. Um, and I was just because I like, you hear about all these different ones. I feel like Godey's, everybody knows what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's in my opinion one of the most well-known ones, at least for us, I guess. Um, this is how many pages is that?
What this Godey's?
Yeah,
I think so. I don't know because
it's missing some.
no, this is one of those ones where I'd have to do math.
Um, this
She,
one is
yeah,
400 pages.
okay, yeah. So, um, yeah. See, this one's it's like 500 or 400 and something to 500 something. They paginated for the entire year, so it's hard when Sarah Hale was the editor. Um, they paginated the whole year, so it was hard to figure out without doing math.
Yeah, so I like these like indexes that they like put in the front here. Um, so yeah, we got stuff on
Yeah, you know
dressing.
what? This looks like the same kind of thing. Volume 1 is probably the whole year.
So yeah, like our practical dress instructor. Um, Receipts for cookery. I like how they talk about recipes as receipts.
Receipts, yeah.
Patterns for needlework, like border for lace sleeves and crochet. We got
Exciting.
applique. Let's see, dwarf curtains and crochet, handkerchief, infant shoes and crochet.
So this is
Lots
from
of
the Hathi Trust.
uh I guess I was like I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Have you used this site?
Hmm.
Um, I was gonna say I will put links into the description when we're done. More recipes. I was gonna just scroll down to some pictures. Sick room and nursery. There's quite a stuff from sick room and nursery. Tales, the toilette.
The toilets.
Hmm. Things worth knowing. Black lace, how to clean it. Black silks, how to clean.
Things worth
How to
knowing.
stain bone.
Okay.
Bread to make spongy without yeast. Bugs, wash to destroy. Butter, how to keep it sweet for years.
Years.
Um,
What? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
My friend.
I think I found this on there. So yeah.
Yeah, they had quite a few. Let's see. I was just peeking through this earlier to just grab some. Of course, I didn't like mark the pages. Sorry, I'm not trying to make anyone sick.
Yeah, actually I just found
Um,
volume 10. I looked at the wrong
mhm.
I grabbed the wrong one. But yeah, this is exciting.
Oh
There's this stuff. Yeah, the
my God,
stuff is
tons
available.
of it. Like we got this crochet pattern here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very
Uh,
pretty. We got some
mm-hmm.
dress here, the practical dress instructor, and we go right down into pattern.
How exciting.
Yeah. So there's some cool stuff here, and there's quite a bit. So I will put this link um in the description later
Yeah.
so that you can peruse because volume 2, then we go into different years here. Um Down to volume 10. Oh, Harvard has one.
Huh.
And these are all US universities here.
Yeah.
New York Public Library. The nice thing is like, so I mean, stuff I'm sure you remember. It used to be that you could not get your hands on this stuff if you were not tied into a university like
Yeah.
JSTOR
Mm-hmm.
and getting it. Like you can buy individual things for a lot of money. But if you're in a university, you have access to these amazing search engines and these repositories. And then once I feel like once Google Scholar became a thing and was starting to pick up, a lot more people were like, oh, there really isn't that much money in hoarding these resources as we thought. So some things have become more available. I like putting
Yeah.
some of this context in. And also, as we've mentioned before, is that Steph and I have been enjoying finding advertising
Mm-hmm.
for needlework things like tools and making and quilts and textiles. And
Yeah.
also just some funny stuff that pops up here and there when you're
Yeah.
looking at that kind of
I
stuff.
think for the most part, I look at those things first for the funny.
Mm,
That's usually what draws me to that stuff. Is like this is absurd. But also, yeah, I have learned so much from looking at just perusing stuff like that. So
mhm,
it's worth it
mhm,
to pay attention to those things, even if they're not exactly about quilting or dressmaking or whatever.
mhm. So yeah, that digressed a little bit because it's we've seen more than once this English Woman's
Mm-hmm.
Domestic magazine, and I was curious.
Yeah.
There's definitely other things that they've mentioned I just haven't perused yet. But she then goes into, she's talking about Miss B's small wares, and she makes this note to mention that there's only this one instance in the whole diary that Anne talks about like actually shopping
Right.
and like
Yeah.
buying
Mm-hmm.
something from that. And I'm just wondering, since this is the only place that's there's any talk of shopping and it's the only establishment ever mentioned, with her entire family being in the textile industry, could it just be that she never really had to buy things in shops and all of the things came to her?
Yes, I kind of thought that myself. When she said there is this only one, example of shopping, and
Hmm.
I can picture, a woman whose whole family, like you're saying, their whole family's involved in textile production, that it's very easy for her, father or her husband to bring things home. And that maybe the haberdashery stuff is what she shopped for, the ribbons and
Mm,
things, because they wouldn't be coming out of the plants, the factories, like the same way that the cloth was. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like, she's a person of privilege. And so, but also on the other hand, like, now I do think shopping for dress fabric might have been a bigger to do than, say, shopping for ribbons. Um, but I mean, think about the shopping that you do. Um, there's probably literally no shopping I would ever like write in my diary except if it was something very grand, like I acquired something special or I went shopping someplace very unexpected, just my normal.
well, you say that. but we stream about crap we went shopping for.
But that is monumentous. That is monumentous shopping. That's the point. I mean, I'm not going to talk to you about my trip down to the Royal Farms to get chips because
No,
it's
but you'll
so
talk to us
workaday.
about what you went and bought at Costco or every place you've ever had a chicken sandwich.
Now, I am not Ann Sykes, okay? I'm Stephanie Cake. Just
You're like,
because
I'm not Ann Sykes, I'm Stephanie
Stephanie
Caps Dyke.
Dyke. Yeah, just because my last name rhymes with hers a little bit doesn't mean that we're on the same page. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just, at this time period, shopping in a store was not a thing so much as it is now. And yeah, I mean, you didn't buy as much stuff. And so I definitely can see that shopping was probably not a thing she did except in Singapore.
I find it interesting too that on page 49, it also mentions about how Miss B seemed to kind of specialize in Southeast Asian fabrics.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. Like, I wonder,
Hmm.
I mean, I guess she talked about the overland, and the overland products coming in from, I mean, I guess it's all Southeast Asian stuff, but it's coming
Hmm.
overland versus, on the big ships. And it surprises me that she doesn't get more of that, like, and I think I think Kate Strasdin has already kind of said, was she sort of just in her little bubble, and not necessarily like, and I don't know how this is probably going to sound awful, but going native, I feel like if I lived in a tropical place for 7 years, I would
You think it would
definitely
have
be,
more of an effect on you?
yeah, I would be dressing like the natives because they have lived here their entire lives. They know,
And
like,
their dress is far better suited to the climate.
exactly. I would absolutely do the things the natives did, but we do know from this period of colonialism, especially, I mean, more stuff in, at least that I have read, is written about India versus Singapore, but they go to these hot places and they still try to, try to carry on like they did in England, and it's like, well, this is not England's climate, nor,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. It just seems to me like, I guess she tried to keep up, the cottons were about as oddball as she got. And those fabrics that Mrs. Brennan had were Miss Brennan. She was not married, right?
I don't know.
I don't think she was. Yeah, she's referred to as Miss Brennan.
Hmm. I find it interesting too that this chapter kind of goes into some of the bigger concept about shopping. Like she on page 152, talking about how we're kind of already seeing the wheels turning for what will become the fast fashion industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then on 154, the fact that like it doesn't take long for us to really kind of start to plunge into the darkness of fast fashion and it starts
Mm-hmm.
to emerge and you get this poem here.
This is horrible. And the drawing
um
that goes with it, I'm like,
yeah.
well, I guess they didn't necessarily go together, but the point being,
Well, I mean, underneath the discussion underneath, so like this poem here we got, with fingers weary and worn, with eyelids heavy and red, a woman sat in unworthy rags, plying her needle and thread. Stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt, and still with a voice of dolorous pitch, she sang the song of the shirt. And I'm like, wow, that's mm. And
yeah.
then the
And
the context here has the poem was published in the Christmas
I know the
edition.
Christmas edition.
Yeah, the Christmas edition of Punch. What an interesting name.
Yeah.
In
So
1843, and caused a storm of reaction, but change was not to be swift. 20 years later, a scandal rocked the world of the high-end dressmaker. In June 1863, an anonymous seamstress had written a letter to the Times in which she described the terrible conditions in the court dressmaking establishment of Madame Elise. She wrote, I work in a crowded room with 23 others. This morning, one of my companions was found dead in her bed, and we all of us think that long hours and close confinement had a great deal to do with her end. Um, and then that whole thing spurred this picture here, the haunted lady or the ghost in the looking glass, where you're in your really pretty dress, but in the mirror you see the person who's died to make your dress.
Yeah. And,
Wow, if that
I don't
wasn't quite
know,
the allegory for today.
without any context, I don't know that I would understand what was happening in this picture. Because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this sort of snobby looking woman is standing behind this lady in this really pretty dress, but this little lady in the pretty dress can see this, like, woman in the background. And I would be like, what is happening here? But yes, I think the Victorian era people, they loved these kind of stories. Um, and I don't know if it's this idea of, oh, those poor, pitiful people. They loved a story like that. Godey's was packed with them. I mean, I read the Rich Christmas, Poor Christmas, Back at Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, wow. Like, and think about the stories that we hear today, and so many of them are not, like, they're not real stories. Like the Christmas boots, like, those, they make you want to cry, but you're like, this isn't real. This is not a real story. Somebody made this up. But it's like the same thing. People love that kind of stuff, especially during the holidays.
Janet made a comment about your previous comment about kind of quote going native. And she
Yes.
said it would be frowned upon. Have you watched Selfridge?
I have watched
He had a
Selfridge.
hard time convincing Londoners to shop in a department store.
Yep.
Did you say you have watched it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a
Selfridges.
really good show.
I love Selfridges. I was really sad when it I guess they kind of just stopped producing it.
Yeah, so the Paradise that I was mentioning,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I understand, was running at the same time as Selfridges, and they
Okay.
canceled the Paradise because Selfridges was doing better. But the Paradise is it's very cute, and I believe it's a precursor.
Okay,
I
like
believe it's a real store,
a
and it's a
prequel.
precursor to Selfridges.
Yeah.
It's on a much smaller scale, and
Yeah.
and just as much to do with the people that are running things. But anyways, in terms of time here, do you have anything else important about this chapter? Because I have two more things for us to look at
Yeah,
that
let's
you
look
shall.
at that. There's one thing I was gonna see, and I had the cat in my lap. I couldn't get up to get my highlighting tape.
Lies.
But somewhere in here, and I feel like it's this chapter, where Kate references the garments made from all of these scraps in this book, and she says the thousands of garments, and I'm like, huh? That maybe hundreds of garments. I can't, and I had read it multiple times because I was like, is she saying like just the thousands of garments made at this time period, or is she saying this actual scrapbook? And I'm makes me so mad that I didn't like just push the cat to the floor.
I feel like potentially that's the next chapter.
Is it?
It might be.
The next chapter though is the Preston Guild, and Preston Guild.
I remember.
Before,
Yes,
it was
I
before
remember
Preston
vaguely.
Guild.
Oh, I remember vaguely reading
Yeah.
about.
Well, anyway, I'm not trying to find things to like complain about, but I just was kind of like, what does she mean by that? There's not enough fabric in this, even when we're talking about one piece of fabric equals a dress for Anne and a dress for Fanny, it still doesn't equal that much, that many garments. And some of them are garments. One of the scraps was a flag. So, I feel like that might be an editorial thing where probably hundreds should have been used, unless I completely missed the context of what it was saying.
If you read it a bunch of times, you might have made up your own.
Perhaps, yeah. On page 151, one thing real quick was this woman, Mrs. Fry, and her offer of 6 bonnets, 6 dresses, and 6 cloaks. I was like, always somebody has got the old, they're shrewd with the money and they know how to do these things. Do we know how many samples are in the whole diary? Yeah, I want to say that was something she said at the beginning, and I don't.
Hold
remember.
on, I might just have
Did
a
you
note.
have it noted? Yeah.
Let me see real quick. Let me scroll up here. 2,000 pieces of fabric,
Okay.
and the book is full of more than 100 names.
Well, if there's 2,000 pieces of fabric, that is technically
yeah,
thousands of
that would
garments.
that would tell you where she got her number from.
Yeah. Okay. I concede, even though I can't find it. So, So the riot and the party. Before you show what you have to show, in here, where does it say? It started. They were talking about the reading of the Riot Act, and I was like, "That's where that saying comes from." When you
didn't know that?
Yeah, I did not know that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, that's where this comes from." Reading somebody the Riot Act comes from this thing, the Riot Act. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What page are you on?
I can't find it. Now that I'm in there.
You're so fired. You're fired.
I know.
I was gonna say I didn't specifically like note that because
it was right at the beginning.
And that was one of the things I was less interested in this chapter.
It's an interesting story about this thing, this Preston Guild thing, and that it's still. I think she said the most recent one was 2012, so it still goes on. I think that's one thing that's so interesting about the culture of different places is when, and particularly, in Europe and England, when they have something like that and it's been going on for centuries, and you're like, wow, I feel like sometimes here in the U.S., can we get anything to stick for very long, before it's like outdated or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so interesting because this chapter is focusing on an Emma Taylor, which she surmises might be related to Fanny. But yeah, we don't know for sure. But the fact that she talks about on 161 here, Emma's ivory silk ribbon, and how she says it's Emma Taylor's sash at Fancy Ball Preston Guild, September 1842. And because of it, this is like one of the only pieces that actually links a person and a dress to an actual event that she can go and look at. And that is things related to that.
That's such good luck when you're researching, when you find an actual event, because multiple people have written about it, including primary first person sources. So yeah.
So the first thing I have here is a little video. It's a little animation.
By the way, the reading of the Riot Act is on page 166 by Samuel Horrocks.
Oh,
which made me think of Horcrux.
Okay.
So, this is the Preston Guild animation. Okay.
Oh, it's cute. It's really cute. Let me just make sure my sound is not insane. And it's just, there's no talking. It's just reading on the screen.
Okay.
And it's just a couple minutes here. Let me know if my sound is like insane.
Good for me.
Okay.
Every 20 years. Okay.
It's Priesttown, later Preston.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a little more context here than Anne had.
So these the medieval monks. Okay.
And here's the 1179 King Henry.
The second, right?
97.
That's
the first one. Yeah. Look at that! I forgot he was from Preston!
Sir Richard Arkwright.
And then we got the Industrial Revolution. Here's that hot air balloon where that guy.
Did Arkwright break his leg?
A little bit differently. He didn't crash. This one, look, he just falls out of it.
Oh, Livingston. Livingston broke his leg. It wasn't Arkwright. Sorry. Oh, Blondin. Okay. Or Blondine.
I think there's a movie about this. The footballers there, the cup there.
Chaining herself to the railings. I love that. They didn't do 42, right? That was the...
Yep. It's city status in 2002. I thought that was just
Wow.
really cute.
So I guess, oh, 2022 would have only been 10 years. So it's 2032 will be the next one, right? Right? Yeah. 2012 to
They
2000.
did
Yeah.
2000, no,
2012 to
2000, 2022 would have been 20 years.
that's 10 years.
2002 to 2022.
2012 to 2022 is 10 years.
Oh,
Losing my religion. Indeed.
I was playing the 80s the other day. Um,
2022 minus 2012 is only 10 years. So,
that the last one they said was 2012.
yes. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 2002.
Yeah.
And then 2000, anyways, but I just thought that was cute and it just added like a little more
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that.
that's interesting that they've had that going on for so long.
So because again, this particular chapter, I fell down the rabbit hole here with this like Preston Guild stuff. It was also mentioned about the Harris Museum because Anne had mentioned that there is a dress that survives from the same ball
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and it survives in this museum. So of course I had to go look and see if I could find it. I found the museum, I did not find the dress. However, this is one of those museums where they really don't have much of their collection online. You have to ask them about it. But they've got quite a lot of stuff. They are currently closed, it looks like for renovations because they got like a big grant to do like massive renovations.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was looking here, they do a lot of stuff with textile manufacturers of India. And you were talking about India earlier.
18-volume set of fabric samples books. Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah.
so
Oh
when we
wow.
go into fashion, and one reason I'm bringing this up is in case anyone's ever going over to this area, you know, the one thing that really makes me excited about Europe is that they have museums everywhere. Um, so let's see. What was I? Textiles here. The collection includes flat work such as embroidery, lace, quilts, and printed cottons. Local firms are represented, but much of the collection reflects textile status as a popular personal and creative activity. Highlights include a fragment of Coptic textile from around 600 and embroidery and samplers from 17 and 1800s. Quilt range from a military example of 1890s to the Harris quilt commissioned from Josephine Radcliffe in 1998. So there's things in here,
Hmm.
along with a lot of this like South Asian fabrics, textile manufacturers of India. And then they've got a lot of fashion plates, but we do go down into some examples of things here.
Oh, I love those dresses.
Yeah, there's this I was looking through this just to see if that
Hor-
ivory dress she's talking
this
about
is the
happened to be her. It's
Horroxes.
not.
The
Huh?
Horroxes. The Horrocks. The wealthy Horrocks family are cotton manufacturers. That you're
But
seeing
I
that
did
some of these items are from the Horrocks manufacturer.
well, there is some stuff here at the bottom. I'm just trying not to make anybody sick.
Oh my goodness, look at all these fabulous things. I love looking at clothing.
So here's your Indian textile books. Um, come on, come on. So there's this dress here from here. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
1823 to 38.
1830s. Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Mhm.
1830s. Them sleeves. That's an
And then
1830s
and
giveaway.
then this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Can I click on it? No, can I not click on it? This
Is there?
one, oh yeah.
If you push that, oh, okay.
This one I found interesting because we had mentioned before Spitalfield silk.
Spitalfields. Mm-hmm.
So, and this one is the 1700s, and it looks to be
Yeah.
in really, I really can't click on it. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
It looks to be in pretty good shape. Not that it's the same time period, but
Mm-hmm.
just, they're obviously giving like a whole
Yeah.
spiel of stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute. You can see more of Harris's fashion and textile collection on Google's Art and Culture We Wear Culture
Ah.
website. Well, we're going to that.
Oh, look at all of this. How exciting. Yeah.
6,000
Google Arts.
items.
Yeah. Google Arts and Culture. I was in there a while back. I mean, it was probably sometime during the pandemic, I guess. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there.
Oh, there's a quilt
Look at
here.
that quilt.
Fashion and textiles. Home to Lancashire's finest collection of dress and textiles housed. Hmm. Well, that is
Look at those
interesting.
waistcoats. Those waistcoats might have very much been what
Mm-hmm.
Adam Sykes was wearing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's see if I can, am I able to like narrow place? Oh, wait. I saw it. I saw.
Yeah, there was England and the United
There was
Kingdom.
Preston. There was Preston.
Oh, was there Preston?
Oh,
Mm.
what just happened here? Oh, wait. Yeah, Preston. One. Darn
Pres-
it. That's not what we're looking
Preston
for.
Guild scarf. But is this one of those scarves like they had at the Centennials and the? I mean, it's one of those collectible things.
Yeah. 1952.
Okay. Yeah. It seems
Mhm.
like I feel like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, people loved scarves and bandanas for stuff. I mean, women wore scarves over their hair, I know, and people used bandanas and handkerchiefs and all that kind of stuff, but it really just surprised me how many of those things exist, you know?
Oh,
Look at
there's
that
more of that.
sewing machine.
The
And the,
sampler book
and
thing.
the Vivian Westwood shoes and this is why I going to museum sites. I fall down the rabbit hole and I just
Look at this purple quilted jacket.
mm-hmm.
Like,
That
it's
is
not really a
very
part
pretty.
of anything we're looking at right
Oh look,
now, but it,
there's the little magnifying glass to look at it closer. Maybe.
and this is 1890 to 1900. That's
Yeah,
it.
this
I get a zoom 1%.
it's still a really
Wow.
it's still a very interesting garment.
Oh yeah. It looks like something that would be made today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I see. This tells you that like I didn't go far enough to see that
Okay,
there is this.
fashionable
Ooh.
morning and evening dresses. Those style of dresses, you just scrolled a little too far above that suit. That now those are real fancy, but that style of dress is kind of what I
Mhm.
thought they might be wearing. Like it's that very
Mhm.
high waist, just the long straight sleeves. They have like a little cap, poofy cap sleeve. But
Mhm.
imagine that style of dress made out of these cotton fabrics. They would be
Mm.
cool. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me just see cream embroidered. I was looking for like white stuff because it said ivory. Oh, look, there's a sampler. Oh, more swatch book.
See this, I'll dive in and then I'll just totally forget what I was even looking for in the first place.
Well, and that's why sometimes I don't look very hard
Mm-hmm.
because I want to be all right, I could do without this dress. That would be one of those, can I exchange this for something else?
That's the yellow dress that he sent.
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder. No wonder she wanted a different one.
Um,
um,
yeah, well, there's like so much stuff in here, more from that textile book.
it's so
Wait, there's a
interesting. It's so interesting also how they've got all this stuff kind of like just thrown into one space because you've got all this gorgeous stuff, from
yeah.
the like mid 20th century and then
Well, I will
these
put this
older
extra
things.
link
See
into
Horroxes. Did you see that said Horroxes?
yes, I did.
That's the man who read the Riot Act.
I did. Yeah, I'll add that in. But yeah, see, I told you I wouldn't disappoint with my extra goodies.
Those are some good things. I will have to find something for next week, so I'm not just randomly holding up something. Look what I have.
Do you have anything else particular in this chapter?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just, my big thing was the Riot Act. Just learning that, like, oh, that's what that is, and that's where we get the saying
Well,
from.
I did mark
Um,
here just to talk about kind of because we didn't really explain what the Preston Guild is. So on
mhm.
between 162 and 163, we've got here, but what is the Preston Guild itself? What was this event marked so studiously by Anne, at which Emma wore so colorful a sash to the fancy ball? There are more than 8 centuries of history that link the town of Preston in Lancashire to the event that still takes place to this day. In 1779, King Henry II granted the town a royal charter and the right to have a guild merchant. The guild formalized the trades operating in the town, allowing only guild members to carry out their business. It offered a means of regulating trade quality, licensing craftspeople and merchants. For a small annual fee, I'd like to know how small that annual fee was.
Yeah.
For a small annual fee and following the close scrutiny of existing members, a new tradesperson might be admitted to its ranks, and customers would know that having been admitted to the guild, the quality of goods or services was assured. By the 16th century, Preston acknowledged that this admittance need only be confirmed once in a generation. And so the decision was taken to hold a ceremony every
Every
20
20
years.
years. Yeah. So that's what we're calling a generation, is 20 years.
I guess you
I
know
mean,
something? I what have you considered a generation to be? Because I was say like
it's
the
a good
answers
question.
always like vary.
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think, like, I mean, to put myself in generations. So my mom was born in the 50s, I was born in the 70s, my son was born in the late 1990s.
Yes, I guess
So
20-ish years. I I
24ish.
I I often hear it as like 25.
Yeah. Yeah, to me that's what
Um
seems like a 25 is.
mm-hmm. But yeah, nope, there were some interesting threads to go down different paths. I'm very, very excited about that resource to look at some publications
Mm-hmm.
and also, just add another museum to the list of places to go. And get over. I feel like in order to go over to like England and any surrounding countries you wanted to pick, um, I feel like I'd need to be over there like a minimum of like 2 months. And in those 2 months, I'll probably only get to go through the Victoria and Albert and like the Louvre.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could spend probably 6 months just going to the V&A and nothing else. Maybe some of the little, like, the little localities, their little museums, but yeah.
Well, like this place,
Hmm.
I don't it's probably not anywhere as big as the V&A or the Louvre or anything like that, but they clearly have a collection with interesting things in it. And I'm sure plenty of the smaller museums have things we would like in it because needlework was such a big
Yeah.
part of women's lives back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so yeah, you know.
I am hoping that, so this is 1862, Margaret Ellen and Catherine something. This fabric that looks like it's got blueberries on it.
Mhm.
I am waiting to hear about that one. I want to know about that fabric. Um, because I just like the looks of it. It looks really interesting to me. I don't think they're
Oh, I'm
blueberries,
surprised
but
you haven't done a reverse Google image search to see if it's been like reprinted and something.
nah. Uh,
Well, winding down here, just to remind everybody, we have a special stream next Tuesday that's an interview with our friend Alicia Thomas from Virginia Quilt Museum. So we won't be discussing book stuff. So you're getting 2 weeks worth of reading this time around. So for the 25th, we're reading chapters 13 through 17. It's pages 175 to 228. It actually only ends up being about 47 pages of actual reading because the chapters around there ended up being on the shorter side. So that works out. And we are making our way through this book. I think
yeah, we're gonna be
maybe
done
by the
soon.
next time we do a book discussion, probably we will have the announcement of what happens for the next um quarter 2 of the year. We have very exciting things
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, we do. We had a little meeting the other day and got some things on the calendar. So,
Mhm. So pay attention for that. You will definitely want to be a part of that.
Hey, Tish. I totally forgot to read. That's okay. You could do it after this.
I was gonna say, wow, Tish, you really held out until the last like minute of the
Yeah.
stream to tell on yourself.
Well, you now have 2 full weeks to get caught up. So.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Janet
fair.
says it's up on the western side of England. I'm assuming. Do you mean Harris's? I'm guessing that museum north of Liverpool
Mhm.
or Preston.
Again, more reason that I would need to go there for like a couple of months because if I'm going to spend the money and the annoyance of the travel, it's one of those things I like to go places, but I don't like getting there.
Totally.
So yeah, if I've got to deal with that and all that time flying over the ocean, I'm gonna make the most of my time and try to live there as long as possible.
Well, I am theoretically going to be in England this summer, and I will
Mhm.
be going to Liverpool. So I will have to see if I can sneak away for a jaunt to Preston. Although something tells me they'd leave me behind if I did that. They're like, sorry, Kate, bus has got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. But well, to be continued on that story then.
Oh, 6 hours. Yeah, it's only a 6 hour flight. It's like flying to California.
I've never flown to California because it's 6 hours. I do not enjoy the longest plane I've ever been on, I think is like maybe 3.5. I'm not having a good time. Like, I don't want to be in there. And
Well,
also, like, I don't want to do that.
I believe you called me a weird ass lady before we got on here for my travel weirdness. So,
Well, I mean, are we going to tell people about that one? Because that one's a lot different.
all
It's
right
a
then.
story for another
We
day.
will see you guys. We will see you guys next Tuesday. If you hang out with me on my stream, I will see you on Thursday. And don't forget, if you are one of my direct flight only, yes, Arlene, yeah. If you're one of my subscribers and you have not signed up for the Valentine's Day, Galentine's, Palentine's film screening, it's a private screening. Let me know, and if you want to come, or if you just want the link, because I'll leave it up for a few days. So, because I know not everybody's available on Friday night at 7, like me, the loser who has nothing to do. So, not calling you a loser if you have nothing to do that night. I'm just saying. So, all right, cruise ships.
All right.
Yes, you could go on a cruise ship.
That's a whole nother problem. On that note, I'm going to go eat some food.
All right, bye guys. See you soon. Mwah,
Bye.
mwah. Bye. That was a weird noise that my computer made.
That's scary. Don't make weird noises.